So one nice thing, I'm going to sort of take a quick, my session, I'm going to cut it down from 30 minutes down to about 10 minutes so we can start the panel on time, or as quickly, as close to on time as we can, so everybody gets out of here on time. But there's a couple of things I want to talk about. First of all, we've seen great growth in the industry. Go ahead. For those of you who haven't been tracking or have been tracking sort of the segment of all of digital signage, which includes both the hardware and the creative side, okay, so there's two sort of defined sides of digital signage. In 2012, we had a 25% growth, but in 2013, we had a 30% growth. So if you click it one more time, sorry about that, and get my cool little 30 that matches sort of where we are here. And obviously we're expecting double-digit growth again in 2014, even with the short period of time that we've seen in the market. And of course, this is the kind of stuff that we track and we pay attention to. So we pride ourselves on being able to sort of keep up with trends and also be able to track stuff like this. One of the things that's going to help drive digital signage, as I mentioned earlier today, is there's a 12% decline last year in television ad revenue, and that money's got to go somewhere if you'll go forward. This is what's neat. 7% of that money, so it's still a very small amount of money, is going into place-based advertising. Obviously, a large portion of that is going to quickly go into mobile place-based advertising, but a portion of that is going to go into large format place-based advertising. And one key element to keep in mind is if you look at an advertising agency, and this is sort of the key indicator, if you look at the bottom line sort of approach that an advertising agency would take, or a listing that an advertising agency would take to put an ad through the networks, digital signage wasn't even listed as an item 2 years ago for an agency. So 2 years ago today, if you looked at a digital signage, if you looked at an advertising agency's items, and I'm talking about mainstream agencies like BBDO and Chiat Day, large ad agency organizations, or mainstream agencies that do 90% of the television advertising. 2 years ago, they didn't even have digital signages listed as an item on their on the services that they supported. Now, all of them have it listed, and all of them are spending money in digital signage in 2014. So, there's three couple of quick points I want to make to keep in mind for those of you. So, I guess points of advice, I guess I would say in a way. The first thing is the importance of the infrastructure, and doing the infrastructure. Go ahead, and doing the infrastructure right. Obviously, the network is the key element. So the cool thing of the position that we sit in the industry, as an industry, sort of where we're coming from the technology side, meaning us in digital signage, is that we actually are in the best position to sort of drive the controller and the content control in a network, regardless of whether it ends up being a digital signage network or even a mobile network. Because even if there's interactivity between the small personal information display that we're carrying around, whether that be a phone or a tablet or a phablet or whatever it ends up being, if there's any level of interactivity, they're going to have to connect with the system that we're in charge of and that we're controlling. So making sure our infrastructure, if you go forward, is compatible and well designed and most importantly scalable. That's a key element here. So infrastructure is going to be very important. As we move towards an Internet of Things, that means that we're going to be connected to that Internet of Things. Go ahead, please. And although there are going to be people, there's even one gentleman who will be on the panel that hates interactive displays. One of the trends that is driving agencies in the world of digital signage is it gives them the ability, it sort of gives them that holy grail of interactivity. Interactivity has never worked in television. It's not there is no such thing as interactive television. For an advertising medium. It's never really worked on any level. Even if you look at the gaming market, which is huge. In fact, as of 2012, the gaming market was larger than the theater market, meaning more money is being spent in personal gaming, whether it be iPhone gaming or console gaming like a PlayStation. More money is being spent there than all the money spent on Hollywood movies, including you going to the theater combined. So if you added up all the money spent of you buying tickets to go to movie theaters all around the entire world, add up all the money you spent on popcorn and on everything else that you spend money on, there's more money being spent in the gaming world than in the home entertainment world. Now, what's amazing about that is there are the sections of newspapers and sections of entertainment publications, and there's entire publications dedicated to the world of home entertainment, meaning the world of Hollywood. An actor dies yesterday and everybody knows about it 45 minutes later, right? A character in an online game dies, nobody cares. But what's interesting about that is that market is actually bigger. So you're also going to see sort of movement there as well. We all like to play. Humans love to play. And therefore, interactivity, in my opinion, is going to be an important driver of the future of digital signage. And I would doubt that you're going to see anybody on the show floor at ISE starting tomorrow that doesn't have some level of interactivity in their digital signage portfolio. I mean, we started playing like this, and if we go forward to the next, click forward, and then we have, the games like this is the most popular game in the world right now. For those of you who don't know about it, don't worry. It means you're older than 30, right? Including myself. But my kids play this game like crazy. I mean, you hand a kid an iPad, they figure out how to use it. I mean, there's a whole generation of kids that are growing up with interactivity being built into everything they do. The concept of a phone just being a phone is sort of odd to them. And we growing up into sort of that gamification of interactivity. And then we really never stop playing. I mean, we're doing that now. And this is how we as adults like to interact with things. You're going to find more and more of this, whether it be kiosk-based signage interactivity or large format interactivity. I believe that's going to be a driver of digital signage in the future. So, just as if we get our panelists to come on up here, I would appreciate all of our panelists. And as they're coming up here, I would like to call your attention to, we have a contract with the show, ISE, the group that puts on the Integrated Systems Europe show. And if you go to this website here, ravepubs.com/ISE 2014, if you're not going to the show or you go to the show and don't have a chance to go to every booth, we have 20 people. I brought 20 people to ISE this year, and we're going to go around to shoot videos on every single booth, every single stand on the show floor, and we're going to shoot every new product. So by the end of the 3 days on our website there, we'll have a video, a 1-minute video to 2-minute video on every single new product launched at the show. And that's free of charge. They're just very short, sort of what we call elevator pitches or quick, detailed, small amounts of details on each of the new products that people are launching at the show. And in addition, we also have news, blogs, and these sessions here. We've been recording these sessions. I don't know if you've noticed this, Amelia back here. She's been recording these sessions, and this session by tonight will be online as well as all the sessions from earlier today. So if you want your friends to watch anything that you saw or possibly missed, then you have a chance to do that. So got one more panelist coming up here. Yeah. Almost. All right, so we're going to do this like we did last year. First of all, thank you to the panelists because we have a wide range of panelists here, and I'm going to pass the microphone down and ask them to introduce themselves and tell a little bit about what they do.
My name is Tobias Ekmark. I'm one of the partners. I'm also responsible for sales and marketing with ISE International. We're a software company based in digital signage, and I hope most of you guys have a bit familiar with our software. And one of our biggest competitors is next to me.
It's always nice to have competition. My name is Tom and I'm working for Scala. We're also in the digital signage industry. We're well known for our enterprise digital signage solution, and I'm responsible for the Benelux operation.
Hi, I'm Steve Priestley. I'm with Wireless here in Europe and lead their activities over here. And Wireless have nothing to do with digital signage, but picking up on Gary's comments, we're the people that are going to help you enable the infrastructure and the IoT. We provide the managed services that allow the core content to connect to the digital edge in a managed, secure fashion.
Hello everybody, my name is Lars Peters. I'm from Germany, Hamburg. I'm working at ISE Flat Media, maybe more known as a sub-company of Ströer. We are owner of a out-of-home network, which is like refinanced by advertisement with around 3,500 screens all over Germany.
Okay, hi, I'm Leo van der Polder. I'm from the Netherlands and I'm working for Popeye. Popeye is a global organization who's really active in shopper marketing. So my business is really to understand the shopper and how can you influence shopper behavior, pre-store, to-store, in-store, and post-store.
Hi, my name is Stevan Dragas. I'm working for Intel in the visual retail, and we cover various segments, various markets. I'm specifically focused on working with the ecosystem and developing it, both from the hardware, software, features, functionalities, and now recently we started also with the retail client solution, so ecosystem manager.
Hi, hi, I'm Stephen Borg. You've all heard from me anyway. I work for AOPEN, and I look after the global strategy and market development, where we go, what we consider, and how we go about it with our partners. So that's what I look after.
Hi, I'm Sylvia Kivits. I'm a Marketing and Innovation Manager at Day Creative Business Partners, and we offer a blend between consultancy and a design agency, and we're based in Amsterdam and in Dubai.
Okay, well, hold on to the microphone because I'm going to ask you the first question. So you come from a retail design perspective side of things, and that's really a huge element of digital signage now, because people aren't going to look at things that aren't designed creatively or don't look appealing or don't grab your attention, right? What's the future there? What's that looking like now? What kind of insight can you give us?
I think the main insight is the fact that we already talked about customer experience, but customer experience will be the most important thing in the future. And I think it's more important to look at it from a marketing perspective than from a technology perspective, because we need to know what our customer drives, and from there, when we develop things for our end customers, design needs to be in the total process of things, because what attracts our customers is more important, so design can add an extra layer to that. And most of all, when you look at an omni-channel approach, brand identity is really, really, really important in this.
Okay, Stephen, I'd like for you, I mean, you've got a lot of experience on the retail side as well from your previous job and where you are now. Again, the creative question, because this is a big part of where we're going to have to move in digital signage. We can't just handle the technology anymore. We're going to have to get involved in the creative.
Yeah, and I think mirroring what you said, it's taking design and applying it, rather than taking a technology and applying it. And I think one of the key things that I've found recently is we do get a lot of customers in this industry that want digital but don't know what to do with it. And if we're going to grow the industry, we need to understand that, and not just understand the technology, but understand the customer's customer and what the outcome needs to be, right? And I think, we've seen a lot of signage fail because of that lack of understanding.
Right. You look like you're dying to say something there, Liam.
No, he's first.
No, it's all right. We're not going in order. He's just a technology guy.
Okay, take a break. No, I totally agree with him.
Solutions, yes.
Well, I think one of the most important things, it's not only in store, not only at the retail side, but also at the brand manufacturer side, is what will be the real message that you send to me as a shopper. And that will be, if it is digital, okay, if it is packaging, okay, but what do you really say to me? And so first of all, in my opinion, first there is the message, and then we have design, the message.
Okay, Tobias. Engagement, how do we make engagement of digital signage better? What do we need to do? Because that's your area of expertise.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. I was just surprised. But, well, from my point of view, and I want to just touch bases a little bit on what's been, I think, sort of the main subject throughout the day, and I'm happy just to, I was listening to Stephen Borg before, and if you didn't go to that session, buy his DVD, it was just tremendous. There's a lot of focus around the return on investment, and a lot of people want to see that their investment has been worth the while, and they do not think about, like with some of these other guys were touching on, about how your brand will be perceived from your customers. Instead of just looking at selling adverts or doing campaigns or whatever it is, it could also be about how you experience your shop experience in sort of an environmental thing.
So we have an opportunity. This is a great opportunity. You have a great group of panelists here, and the idea in bringing in the alcohol was to loosen. I'm already loose. I don't need. I'm already. I don't know. Actually, we would like alcohol, wouldn't we? Yeah. Would you agree? This is. I have an extra microphone here, and what I would like for you to do is ask questions. I mean, this is a great specific to your jobs, your projects that you're working on now, or things that you're thinking about. How many of you are doing retail signage and you have some questions about sort of either the technology or the creative side? This is an opportunity for you to ask because you have both here. So do we have a question about that particular topic since that's what's on the table right now? It's always hard to get the first person to ask a question. Oh, here we go. All right. So tell us who you are and where you're from first.
I'm Mark Morahan, and I'm the editor of the Guide to Dynamic Digital Communication. Sorry. I was sorely tempted to ask if I was going to buy a software package, which one would it be, but I won't. I'm just interested to see what the panel has to say about what is the biggest challenge as an industry we face over the next 3 to 5 years. What do you think are the, we've all got great growth, but could it be a lot more? And I'm certainly interested to get your views on what the challenges would be.
Who wants to start with that question?
I think it's a really good question because, as I did in my presentation, I'm a software guy, for the one who don't know it. But I'm a software guy who thinks that software should be a peace of mind. And if software is a peace of mind, thank you very much.
That's worth taking a break.
Drinking a red wine would be really cool.
Go ahead and take a sip.
No, I don't take a sip, but I think it's a really good question what you say, because especially if you said what kind of software do you need to buy, it's all about the content and the context. And what I think the biggest problem in the industry is that putting up signs is really great, but you must have relevant messaging. And how you're going to connect the specific wishes or interests of the customers who are looking at your screens to the good message. And what I said before is you have this internet browser which is really cool in setting cookies and engaging with your customer, but I think this is the most challenging thing for us as an industry, if you talk about digital signage at least, how to get the same kind of experience as when you're on the web. So unlock the cookie of the person who is looking to the screen.
Okay, so that's one challenge. What about another challenge? Are there no challenges? Yes. Of course. Leo, what is the challenge?
Well, what I think is that the digital and interactive industry has to find a way how they integrate their technology and design in the total retail communication mix from the retail perspective and also from the brand perspective. That will be a great challenge. So don't think only about digital and interactive, but think about the total communication of the retailer or the brand and be a part of that. So then you became more than a supplier, but then you get more a preferred partner for the retailer and the brand.
So that requires a higher level relationship than what most integrators have, is sort of what you're indicating, right? Most integrators are dealing with a facility manager, you're dealing with an IT person, and really what you're saying is you have to step it up and deal with the person at a high level of marketing or operations that is that has the vision of the organization, marketing objectives, right? Okay, but how do you do that? I mean, that's not simply, you can't just knock on the door of the director of marketing and say, I need to be your friend. Like, send him a LinkedIn message, okay. Yeah, that'll work. And then the other thing you can do on LinkedIn is not recommend, what's the thing that they endorse, yeah. If you endorse them, that's all it takes, right? Because that's a hard thing to get is endorsements on LinkedIn. So, but that's a very good question. I think there's other challenges too. I think one of the challenges we have is other segments of the other industries getting into the digital signage world. Like the advertising industry getting into digital signage can be good and bad, depending on how you look at it. If you're prepared to manage the relationships at that level, exactly like you talked about, Leo, on a creative level, then I think it can be a great thing. If not, it can be a bad thing for you because there are a lot of examples, and we all know that there's a lot of examples where ad agencies have gone beyond the integrator and have gone past them and gone directly to turnkey supplier, whether that be a manufacturer, and in some cases it's actually display manufacturers. The third largest digital signage rollout in the United States, at least, and I'm sure there's others around the world, but since I'm from the U.S., I know that one, was totally done completely turnkey by a display manufacturer, which included them supplying not only the displays, all the media players, all the cabling, and all the software and creative as well. And they still manage the system today. So,
I think because of that, it's key that we add value. Right? I think there's a lot of digital signage that doesn't add value, and if we add value, each message needs to have value, and each step of the way needs to create value to either the end customer or the retailer. And I think that's the challenge. If we can create value, then we're going to create a sustainable industry.
Right, and I would argue that one of the ways to add value is interactivity. However, Lars is going to tell you that that's a horrible idea. So why is that, Lars? Why do you think interactivity is so bad?
Honestly, I mean, we have to see the things from different points of view. I see it totally from the point of view of an advertisement company who owns the network and who wants to sell the impressions of the advertisement. So what we do, there's an agency coming to us and said, okay, we want to have 20 million contacts. So we calculate them down, how many screens we have, how often the impression has to be shown, and then they pay for it, and then we show it. So it's a prepaying contract, really nice. And our problem would be in that moment, what are you doing if just on that day 20 or 30 kids are in the shopping mall and touching on the screens and using all the so nice interactivity, what is honestly in that moment maybe giving a value to the shopping mall, but bringing us the problem that we don't show the commercials, we just sold to the customer. So from that point of view, we really have to see it different. For an advertising-driven network, interactivity is a disaster because it takes us away. Yeah, sorry, I have to say it. It's taking us totally away the impressions we need to sell. So these things has to be seen different. Our industry is really technology-driven, and we always think like we have to show something new, and on every fair, someone is showing a new camera, and last year we were only able to see the gender, now we know the age, and now we also know the behavior of the people, and so on, so on, so on. This is not really what an agency wants. They want to have a reach in a short moment, a lot of people, and not a totally diversified network. So like here I get someone with 14 years, there I get one with 30 years, because they don't want to make an ad for every different group. So it has to be quite a standard, so that agencies are able to book a digital out-of-home network in the same way they book a TV channel or they book an online campaign.
And that actually brings me to that next question. I mean, you're talking about, it's a different perspective, because an advertiser, what he's saying, doesn't want their ad moved. They want the ad to be there all the time, yet if the ad is sitting there all the time, that makes for a very boring digital signage display. It turns a digital signage display into a static message, which is sort of ironically, which is what you probably want from an advertiser standpoint, but it's exactly what we're trying to change, is the world of static advertising into be more dynamic advertising, right? Yes, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm Jarek Maciej from Intel. I think that advertisers want this from you because they don't have a way of measuring the impact of their advertising different than just looking at the number of people who are looking at that. And I think that's the question that we have to answer. So this is the last generation way of looking into that versus the new generation where you can collect the data and really look at the impact that the advertising is making on behavior of the people.
Okay, this is hitting me really hard with middle of 30 being the last generation, but okay. No problem. I didn't say that the industry shouldn't know who is in front of the screens. This is a different topic. We have to know the target groups in front of the screens. Are there singles? Are there families running around, and so on? This knowledge has to be in there. But it is not helping us to have my example are always shopping malls and train stations. Makes no sense to have there 20 screens, and every screen is showing something different because different people are running in front of the screens. Because then you're losing all the effects you have, the installations you have, you run into the problems that maybe for 10 days in front of one screen, no woman is running around. What is, I hope, never happening in a shopping mall. But this is getting in so small parts that it's not organizable anymore. And I think we all saw in the last years we are more and more technology driven, and our customers, even in the retail sector, I think it's the same. The customers likes the idea, then you start to install, you hang the things on the wall and so on, and then after 2 weeks you need the fitting content to the technique you just installed. And then the marketing department is realizing, we only had budget for the first installation, but we haven't a budget for the next season because we have to make the spot 20 times for the different people who are running in front of the screen. So we have to find a way in the middle, not to make ourselves so complicated that no one wants to work with us.
So it's not totally path of least resistance. It's not totally take the easy way out. It's the complexity that we can add to a system by trying to make it interactive can sometimes make it overwhelming, such that the agency's objectives for the client are completely gone.
Yes, right.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, I think that's relative to the brand and to the particular retail, because I think some of the things that we've found is information creates a sale, right? So if you can provide, if you've got a complex solution or something that has multiple parts, and you can help a customer be advised, and they can, go through a journey to get to that point, it can create value. So some brands have a propensity to need interaction because they have quite complex products, right? And they may be very well established from a branding point of view, but they have difficulty explaining their product.
Right. So you say complex, difficulty explaining their product, trouble with branding issue. I think Windows.
Gary, I would like to actually turn this a little bit and maybe add a different perspective. One of the reasons why Intel actually got engaged in this is because there is a lot of almost like damage that has been done to the industry simply because focusing on certain one-sided issues. Everybody can provide screens, everybody can provide players. Where Intel is actually going in is trying to see actually what's fundamentally the solution that we need to develop. What's actually problem that we are going to address with technology? Because at the moment, what we are doing with even Retail Solution Manager, the RCM is actually just one of the driver of actually promoting the benefits that platform and solution can do. But on the other hand, let's not forget the mobile, penetration of the mobile clients, online to offline, offline to online, connecting all those words, all kind of types of payments. That is where actually Intel is coming in. So I kind of find that quite often we get trapped into discussion, my player versus your player, almost like a fashion show. We need to actually really understand what kind of problem are we trying to address. On the other hand, in many cases, even the retailer is not necessarily aware of what the problems or what the possibilities he might have if he starts opening up. And in that case, if he's already deployed certain, I wouldn't even call it custom, but let's say certain type of solution, and suddenly for the mobile he wants something else. I mean, look at the retailers. They mainly still have totally disconnected their online and in-store strategies. So connecting all of those, just connecting the CMS, the databases, is actually much more challenging for them. We can maybe just scratch the surface and say screens will drive you, but they don't have the common currency for the outdoor. We are still working on that, recognizing the number of viewers. That's the most basic. But what does that, as Jarek mentioned, what does that really matter to them? Can you connect actually through interactivity? And again, contact with interactivity has to be adopted to the product and service that you sell. If we even turn back a couple of years, the UK chocolate brand and their commercial, they generated in a couple of weeks like millions of impressions because the ads, the interactivity campaign was targeted for the certain age groups. And the outcome was directly measured because that brand or those products of chocolates in the square mile from anywhere where that was advertised was gone. They did not have supply. So suddenly they faced a totally different problem. It was overly successful. Or in UK when we did in some, I'm trying not to mention any names, but when we were promoting for one electrical retailer certain products that they thought, suddenly they actually sold everything from the shop, even the printers for the papers. And they suddenly thought, well, actually this might not have been successful because we actually did not expect to sell because we reduced our margin. On the other hand, that also means that a strategy for what is the success criteria has to be predefined. So you actually have to spend a lot more time with the brands. And at the moment, where Intel is spending a lot of time. We work directly with the brands, with the big retailers. They're coming and saying, could you tell us what, as a technology advisor, what you would suggest? And then we actually say, okay, rather than suggesting what could address this, tell me the big picture. What else do you want to do? How is online, offline? How is the mobile? Do you have a strategy? You know, so suddenly when you actually map all of that, example, with one retailer, we started talking one thing. At the end of this whole session, we came with 38 things. And suddenly, for them, this actually presents like, you know, radical move and change in some of the strategies or approaches how they had before. So I just wanted to also say the digital signage as industry has to actually be a bit more responsible on taking into account a number of other things like mobile strategies. You know, talking 3 years from now, I would like to have a crystal ball, but I know that at the moment when whatever we go and talk to the retailers about what the current technology can enable, there is a lot of things they did not even envisage, but they all recognize as a valuable one. And that's the reason what Intel is doing now recently at NRF. You know, we're trying to actually promote that and work with the ecosystem, with the channel, with the partners to actually get to this technology, get the experience, get the user experience. If the user experience is positive, you know, there is much less fear of losing customers. The new customer acquisition happens, new customers, more margins, better profits, and then even retailers can maybe even share something. I mean, in France, you know, the biggest challenge, for instance, one retailer had was the stock. They have to have like white goods, huge stocks. We said, yeah, put 3 screens. Some of you probably already can guess, but I'll try to avoid names. Put 3 screens, put touch overlay, and improvise, and have basically the 3D images of the product. Touch, open it. So interactivity in many cases actually can help, because suddenly that retailer doesn't need to have a stock. You know, you suddenly actually even tell him, you know what, instead of charging you 40 euro, 50 euro for delivery, I'll deliver it for free, because I'm actually saving a lot more than you, but I will actually give you something that doesn't really cost me much, but is actually of high value to you.
Right, so what you're basically, to break it down, is you're saying that we as integrators need to become more consultative selling, so we're keeping up with what they want at that moment in time, but also being able to help them see the future of
yeah.
how the impact of that is.
And see what else is there, what else they might not consider.
So Jack, you're brilliant. The consultative solution selling thing is catching on. It's exactly what he does, right? I mean, it's exactly the philosophy.
That's why we're here, because they open a great partner.
Yeah, I would like to, because I heard one word which was like music in my eyes, and that was measured. And I think that a lot of digital signage, and it's also bringing back to advertisement, is a bit like spray and pray. So I know you're familiar with that spray and pray economic, which is good. But if you look to the internet, where you have bannering and people are paid in another way, so per click they pay an advertisement. It would be my day if the digital signage screens could work with this kind of technology, because in that way, of course, an advertiser wants to advertise his message, but if you can have a message which is dedicated to the person looking at it, with a much higher result of converting that into a sale or a brand recognition or whatever, I think this is far more interesting. And then the second of fame on the screen could be a very high value instead of just putting it up for 2 weeks. If I buy leads for a marketing campaign, it's useless, because, well, I know they're in a kind of industry, but I know nothing about the customer. And being able to know more about the customer and then target them is much more successful for me. So I think that we as an industry should work in getting kind of technologies to have more information about the customer before showing content.
Right.
Which I fully understand that interactive in the sense like kids pushing the screen is exactly what you don't want to do. But if you look like interactive in the way like it's connecting to the person, getting the message, that would be far more interesting. And also, if you're an advertiser, I'm not sure if putting up big screens for a modern advertiser is still the way to go. And maybe there's another vision on that, but I think it's an interesting subject to go over.
Well, there's a couple things writing here. I want to continue this because I want you to be able to say your point, but also, Steve, I want you to step in too, because there's a security issue in infrastructure. No, actually, this Steve here. first, because we're talking about an infrastructure and security issue that kind of complicates things, but hold your thought right there, because I know where you're going to go with this. I have an idea what you're going to say, but Steve, the third Steve wanted to say something.
I'll promise very quick this time. So I still want to emphasize thing. I heard again, you don't want kids to touch. I disagree. Go into Lego shop and that's exactly what you do. So again, we have to think, whom do we target, what content? When Lego deployed digital augmented reality boxes, they've seen a huge upsell, simply because it's not now anymore asking parents, imagine this box and what the toy is inside, how your kids will play. Suddenly kids lift the box, come in front of the camera, and look at the screen, and suddenly they can see that the whole toy goes live. And suddenly the parents are a lot more encouraged, me myself too. Actually, my kids always convinced me to buy them those big boxes. But, you know, that is the thing, that in some cases, some use models, you actually do want kids to touch it. I promise I'll be quite quick.
So the infrastructure side of things, if it's not set up properly, you got two issues. One is you never be able to get to the connection of the portable display, because you make it interactive, send the content to their personal display, then the larger display can be used for something else, but now they have the information they need, and QR codes aren't the way to go. But then you also have the security issues of connecting those two together.
So it's really interesting to listen to the debate, because I think it raises the complexity of the industry you're working in, from a consumer of the information all the way down to the deliverer of the information, to the creator of the content, and all of those things. And, you know, listening to you all talk about interactivity versus not, advertising versus not, the underlying piece of all of this is that actually there's a bit that has to happen, which has to be secure, has to be managed, and has to be there for any of that to take place, which is the communication part. And communication is complex in itself. And we're in a changing world in communication, because we're seeing the drive from different technologies in the operators, from a traditional 2G network through smartphones into 3G, and what is soon to become 4G, and everybody's advertising it, and nobody's really telling you what's going on behind all of that. There's just an expectation of migration. So what's got to happen to enable you to deliver these very complex projects to very demanding customers is that you have to enable that with a series or a set of tools around the communication piece that will enable you to do that in a very secure way, by layering in whole aspects of VPN and enterprise security, enabling the content creators to connect to the edge devices in a secure fashion. Multiple content providers connecting to the same edge creates difficulties. The ability to do that in a non-public environment stops folks getting in there and scrambling the message, or hacking the device, or displaying stuff that you don't want to be able to see, or doing all of those things becomes really important, because what actually happens in my view of your world is that that content has to be appropriate, apt, and can't be in any way damaging to the people either providing it or viewing it. And what we do is we enable all of that. We enable that to happen, whether you're with a single operator in a single country, you're in multiple countries, you need the same thing. You know, in today's world, in the wireless world, the ability to connect to operators is pretty easy. The ability to manage those operators and connect seamlessly across multiple countries is not. To do that in a private, secure fashion is not. You have to have a very particular relationship. And you need to be able to do that in the context of what the end user of the technology is trying to do in his enterprise IT world as well. So I think all of those things just add another layer of complexity to an already complex solution. And I think what we're saying is that by enabling that in a simple fashion, in an easy way, through software tools, helps this industry come together at the base plumbing level, which is what we were called earlier. We're the plumbers of this world. The guys that put the pipes and the taps in the bathroom.
All right. Oh, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, it's just really a follow-up question to that. Very interesting hearing some of the responses here. Let me tell you what my biggest problem is and see what the panel has to say about that. We talked earlier about the challenges we face. Nobody actually talked about hardware or anything, which is brilliant. It was all about solution selling, because nobody buys software, nobody buys hardware, they buy a solution. The people I write for are the typical AV integrator, IT integrators, etc. We talked earlier about how consultancy, we've got to start adopting a consultancy way of doing things. How are vendors going to train these people who are dealing with the end users how to do that properly? Because we've got software, we've got hardware, you're experts in that, but who's going to do the training to do the consultancy?
Who wants to tackle that? Maybe Stephen, what do you think?
I think there's multiple levels of training. One is getting a basic understanding of what we have to offer. Take the mystery out of the solution, because I think that's a big problem. I think at that level, it's about just education in the general market. I think for your particular...
how? I mean, it's easy to say education.
Yeah.
How? Let me tell you my typical reader.
Yeah.
Hold on, just let me give you this.
Sorry. Normally I'm loud enough. Yeah, let me tell you about my typical reader. The integrators, the height sophistication is perhaps putting in a screen with a PowerPoint. Yeah. And I'm not being horrible here because they are writing to me and telling me about this is what they need. Yeah. So we talk about we need to educate them. What I'm trying to understand is how do we do that? Because these people are trying to make a living. They're instant sales. We've got to somehow break through and devise a system. Otherwise, none of this is going to go anywhere.
Actually, that's a big challenge for the industry itself. And I think, I was talking earlier, it's not just value about the message, it's creating value for these individuals that have to implement it. And I think there's multiple things we can do. One is we need to try and make things a bit more simple, right? I think there's a natural protectionism around what we do to, protect our patch. And I think that's probably not the most appropriate way. One thing that we've been trying to do is talk to the end consumer or talk to the person that's going to consume the product to enable the resellers, right? To give them kits and videos they can take to their customer. That's what we've been trying to do. It works in some ways. In other ways, what it can do is enable them to, how can I say it, punch above their weight sometimes, which can be dangerous too. So what we're trying to do is look at that at multiple levels. Who has to deliver the solution? The multiple partners and try and add value there. So even to the point of now, in all our communication, you know the exact, like if you install, we sell screens in some other markets. If you install that screen, it tells you, things that you take for granted, but exactly how you mount it, the distances, the thermals, all those basic things that if we don't tell the integrator, they will install it and it won't work, So, and even to the point of trying to get some solutions down to just answering 3 questions. So we've got an open sign product that's designed for other CMSs to talk to. And when we designed it, we said, this is the mantra. No matter which product we send out, if it's on a 42-inch screen or a tablet, the integrator just has to answer 3 questions. That's it. No other software installation, nothing. And that's something that we've been working really hard towards, just to create that adoption. So they don't need to be IT experts to install it. They just need to know.
I'm getting more about, because what we talked about was not, keep my voice down this time. What we talked about earlier was not actually the technology, it was actually about the content. The people that were asking to sell our products do not understand how to structure a marketing campaign. They haven't got a clue. What do we do? How do we get over that challenge? Because, as I said earlier, people do not buy hardware, they don't buy software, they buy solutions. But we've got people who don't actually understand solutions. I'll give you a real life example, right? This is what we face as an industry. Last year we ran a trial, it was called Ask the Experts, where I mean, I know Intel was involved in it. This is in London. We had a big stand up there, and our job was to actually promote the industry generally. I had a person from one organisation. They had 3,000 locations around the UK. She spent 2 years trying to get advice about how to install digital signage. She sat me down, and I was there for an hour and a quarter. You know, it was like the busy stand. And it was embarrassing. I won't mention the name of the company, but she'd actually rang out one of the companies that was with us, one of the sponsors of the stand, and they just brushed her off. And they were too busy. This is the problem. Now you've got a major organisation that's looking to spend millions, and who are they going to? We need to start looking at this from a much more macro perspective as an industry, because it doesn't matter whose digital player or media player they buy. The thing is, we've got to create the market where they buy a media player, then you can find it out. So, I'm actually, I really do, welcome your comments on that.
Well, if I may respond to that, I think it's all in transformation. I started my career long ago in the AV industry. And if I looked, there was no internet, and we knew everything about putting up beamers and how to align those things. And it was logical that the producer sold his beamers through the AV integrator channel. But the world has changed, and if you see how even the producers of goods are changing to a direct delivery strategy, there also needs to become a transformation for the AV integrator. And if the AV integrator thinks that he doesn't have to transform with his knowledge, he will be out of business. So one question, of course, is a butcher cannot be a baker over one day. But maybe if a butcher wants to become a baker, he needs to start to get a baker in his shop to know how to handle that kind of things and transform over time. And I think transformation is, if you look how fast it goes in the market today, it's so fast, and it's really a challenge to keep it up. But you have to change your organization and get new kind of knowledge into your company to keep up. You cannot expect that the industry is going to teach you that.
But how do you get the message out to the AV people? Some say, and it's all very well saying you need to learn these skills, but what does the industry put up? It's actually teaching the skills.
Well, so I guess just from a non-industry person, I think it's really interesting. I'll give you a common market that's suffering from the same problem, which is something described as M2M. And people talk about M2M as fleet management or user-based insurance or all those things. And the fact is, it's got the same complexities. There is a set of users, there's a set of people who want to view the data, and that data is specific to an individual. And the industry has struggled for a long time to understand how to bring all of that together in a common deliverable format. And M2M has suddenly become IoT, which was interesting to see your slide, Gary. And the IoT is all about edge devices connected through some core into some form of core platform, whatever that might be. And I think what's actually happening in the industry is that actually you are getting aggregators of parts of the supply chain coming together and partnering with other aggregators of the supply chain coming together, and to use an overused word, the ecosystem, but a group of folks who are actually leading people through that change are starting to step forward. And certainly in M2M or IoT, that is a commonplace thing. And for us, it wasn't the operator. The operator was too interested in selling SIMs and getting connections out. They weren't interested in the value of the thing those SIMs were connecting or the infrastructure or the pieces around it. So we took that piece on and started to look at how we partner into different markets. And I think only through those partnerships and those building of the bundles and the leaders in the aggregation space are you going to answer that question over time. So to your point, maybe the butcher does hire a baker who can build the pastry to make a sausage roll.
Well, I think this topic has gone on a long time. I think that one point I would make is that remember that we're at the beginning of the market, not the end. This market is emerging. It's not mature. And there's a big difference between the way the market develops, educates, and moves when it's emerging versus mature. And I think we're very much emerging, far from mature, and we've got to figure these things out. I agree with you. We have to figure them out. Did you want to make another point on it? Or
I'll just a simple point. We do a lot of work with a retail design firm in Australia, and they don't understand technology at all, right? So they're even in a worse position than the AV integrator. So what we did is they actually helped us build our open service model, right? And that's the essence of that model, where they will brief us and we'll bring the appropriate partners to the table and do a concept with them. So we'll take their visual concept, and honestly, some of the visual concepts I've seen from them can never be created, right? So we actually have now, they send that to us before they present it to the client, and we might tailor a bit so it actually can be delivered.
So your point is partnering with companies that know how to actually get something done and can simplify it rather than continue to make it complex.
That's right, because every solution is different.
Right.
So how do you create a skill base within your AV integrators when every single customer will have something different? So we've been working really hard to create an open service model to try and bring partners together. And, you know, sometimes for a particular solution, we might pick a DICE or we might pick a Scala, and there's specific reasons that we understand that we've chosen that. So that seems to be working.
Well, that's the value in what you guys are doing versus what most companies are doing, which is you're willing to bring in partners that are sort of cooperative, meaning
that's correct.
Competitive, but also you're cooperating on jobs.
Yeah.
We do have time for at least one more question. You can't answer. It has to be somebody else.
Well,
so how about we...
Gary.
Yes, good.
You saw my presentation this morning about shopper behavior, and it's not rocket science at all. First of all, said to be a member of Popeye. No, just kidding. But go to a store, visit the store, look how people look, watch how people watch, touch, move, etc. And then you get a lot of reactions. For example, this morning I went over from The Hague to here. I have to go to a gas station. It was British Petroleum. And they have a marvelous concept. It's called Wild Bean Cafe. You can have food, drinks, you can everything there. There were 2 screens hanging above, and they were telling me about the menu. Do you think, as a normal shopper, looking upstairs, watching, do you need sandwiches with salad or salami? No, the merchandising is below. So it's a waste of money and a waste of time. So if you can helping the retailer or the brand manufacturer looking from a shopper direction or from a shopper point of view, you will save a lot of money.
We have a question?
Okay, Stefano from Italy. Today we have talking about product design, software, infrastructure, and a lot of kind of these arguments. But what do you think? Do you know some project that are focused or taking care about the human feeling and try to not to use technology but connect human to human and people to people and not think about only the product. Do you know some projects that are focused on this? Not use the technology to attract the people with the product, but try to connect different people and try to transform the store, not in a store where you sell the product, but in a place where you connect the people.
All right, so more human factors engineering. Who wants to tackle this? Apparently nobody. Of course, they will all say they all are considering human factors engineering, but yes, go ahead.
My question, my answer to you is, if you're looking at the total retail landscape, and if you're looking what's happening in every street around the globe, well, we have Selfridges with his silence rooms. We have, well, whatever it may be. And I think one of the most important things is that really in conversation, it will be one-on-one. It will be personalizing. If you see the last Coca-Cola campaign, that they have the Coke cans with her personal name. And that will be really the future, personalized one-on-one communication. And if you fill in that right, well, yeah.
can't tell you who it is because I don't want to disclose their formula, but there's a government a service that focuses on child abuse, and they've designed a special screen that if you're over 4 foot high and you see it as an adult, it's one message, and if you're a certain height, you'll see a completely other message, and it's got a phone number so you can call for if you're an abused child. So that was a very interesting use of technology, and it worked very, very well, right? So they ended up getting, unfortunately, they got a lot of phone calls. So.
And maybe there is also a public, I from Intel have a problem. I have a number of examples, but I'm not really sure which one I can actually publicly disclose. So that's what took the time. But on specifically, for instance, connecting people, there was recent also Coca-Cola's project where they had the vending machines, interactive vending machines in some places in India and Pakistan. And they were actually communicating from one to another country, kind of connecting people and, just the perception and measuring the effect, and people from one country were sending actually coupons, getting coupons, sending free drinks to another country. And, experience, they were measuring the brands and experience, and it was just tremendously positive response of directly connecting people.
Well, before we thank the panelists here, I want you all to look at the list of names there, because we need a couple of more Steves on the panel. We only have 3 now, so next year we're looking for a couple of more Steve or Stevens. Also, we were looking for more people with the first initial S, T, or L, because that's all we have right now. We're going to go for
You're stealing both microphones. Did you realize that?
Yes, I did.
We actually, as AOPEN, wanted to thank you, and we're
you.
really happy you're here. So I think, Gary, give him a warm applause, because without him, it was a really good day. I want to give you 1.
Thank you very much.
And then also the panel of experts, thank you so much for being here. And I think Jack wanted to say the same thing. So
yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys.
And then can I get Rod? Is Rod in the room still? Rod or she? No, he's not here. I'll give the gift to you then. And we're missing Brett as well. He's also, okay.